I'm deeply jealous of you guys because I do a podcast about Jeffrey Combs and you've met Jeffrey Combs. That grinds my gears.
Yeah, we met him I didn't even know what the year was.
Yeah,
When it was.
must
It was
have been ages
so long
ago.
ago. Yeah, it was in Melbourne as well. And so when we say we met him, he was there meeting a lot of people. It's not like we were walking down the street.
Was it like a convention?
Yeah, it was. But I don't know what it was for. I think it was a horror one. And then when we saw they were doing this one and they had some horror people, they had a couple of people from Charmed. Jeff was there and I don't even remember who else. Yeah, I want to say William Shatner might have been there.
Yeah, he was there.
The weird thing was with a lot of the celebrities, they were all just doing those sign and meet type things, right? So you stand in a huge line, you get up, you can maybe say one or two words to them, they'll sign something, and then you just walk off. You might pay $200 to get a signature, $400 for a photograph, or something like that, right? But we went primarily because Jeff was going to be there, and he was just in this little tent.
Yeah. Outside, not even in the building.
I think he was just overshadowed by who else was there. Might have been Walking Dead people there or something like that. Something that was something like that was huge, and everyone had gone to just for those people.
Fools.
And so,
Yeah.
but I was so shocked. I was like, what? Surely the horror community or something would just be here in droves. But it was awesome because we could actually be hey, but as we told you before, he only wanted to talk about Star Trek.
And I was feeling a bit starstruck actually because you had just shown me Re-Animator. And so I was there he is.
That's
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super starstruck too. I was oh my God. But if you said Re-Animator, he'd just go on to Star Trek. And so he didn't seem like he was ashamed of it or anything. And literally, there's 2 or 3 people in the crowd that loved Star Trek and dominated what the conversation was going to be. And then me and Luce just kind of trailed out. I don't know. And in your head, it's oh, how cool will it be to have this cool conversation and stuff. But most of the time, it's just passing chat.
And I feel like such a bother to have so many people come up to me.
Yeah.
I used to work in a cafe and Eric Banner came in and I made him a coffee and I just looked at him and smiled and couldn't speak back. And then I just drew a smiley face on his lid. And before he took a sip, he smiled.
Ah, that's really cute. That's a really nice story.
And didn't you also do your famous Chopper impersonation for him?
And he was like, you bloody nailed that.
Yeah.
Rob Caruana, Lucy Caruana, welcome to Re-AniMates.
Thanks.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Listeners, they are husband and wife, not brother and sister. Just in case they start to talk filthy on this podcast. I'm excited to talk about a horror movie with you guys because I'm in your home and it is full of horror films. I feel like I'm in a really awesome video shop and I assume that's the vibe you were going for.
Yeah. I used to have a plush sperm cell from Seed of Chucky that advertised it and it said coming this summer.
That's rude.
But I don't have that anymore. They used to give you that stuff when you went to the movies. And I used to collect all that junk.
I remember getting a plastic glow-in-the-dark ghost when I went to see Casper at the cinema.
Oh, yes.
And I still remember the smell of that plastic.
Oh, that's so funny. We were just talking about that actually.
Yeah. I had those ghosts too.
Yeah, they smelled like the airport. Yeah, they smelled like... Well, you know that gassy, petrol-y smell that plastic can have? Yeah. The film that we're doing today is a film that you own. I'm not sure why.
Actually, that's a good segue, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
And William Castle was such a gimmick guy. He always gave people things that came to his movies.
Oh, yeah.
So, and always had a gimmick.
The bath bag,
the
I think
original.
he had.
He gave bath bags, and when they did the Tingler, he electrocuted the seats and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Think for House on Haunted Hill.
The original,
the
of course.
original.
Yep.
A skeleton would come flying across the cinema at the final scene
That's great.
to scare the audience.
That's really funny. They don't do shit like that anymore.
Nah.
Glory
Where
days.
are these plastic Caspers and flying skeletons. That's what I want to know.
That's like one of my biggest fears about going to see a horror movie at the movies is like if they have an actor dressed up as Samara or something, like get you in the cinema. That's like what I get scared of more than anything.
Oh, I would love that.
And I think they should do that. Not to me though.
Well, yeah, this is House on Haunted Hill, the remake from 1999, directed by William Malone. I guess I've done all of William Malone's Jeff projects now, because he also directed Jeff in 2002's Fear.com and 2008's Parasomnia. It was written by Dick Beebe. Yeah, it's all right. We can laugh. He's dead. Who didn't write a huge amount though? He wrote the Blair Witch sequel.
Oh, really?
Book of Shadows in 2000.
Oh,
yep.
wow. I like that a lot. It's got a huge cult following now.
Yeah, he wrote that. He wrote a bunch of episodes of The Lazarus Man in 1996. There is also tell, apparently, that Malone wrote about 20% of this script but didn't take credit for it. So if there's any, hammy or corny parts of the script that you can possibly find in this movie, that could have been William Malone or it could have been Dick Beebe.
Wow, this movie's loaded with them. How come you were so shocked that we own it? I mean, we own a lot of movies that we should not own. But yeah, this is
true.
Probably one of them. But
And you said before, like, if you didn't like it, why own it? Not about this movie, but like, this came in handy today.
That's true. It was very useful when I wanted you guys on the podcast, and you already had a whole bunch of Jeff films right there.
Yeah.
Didn't even need to get you anything.
And we just coincidentally watched this. Because, me and Luce are like uber movie geeks.
Mm-hmm.
We, this collection we have of like thousands of movies surrounding us. We haven't actually watched all of these yet. So the ones we haven't watched, we took photos of them and put them in alphabetical photos. So we put all the A's in one photo, all the B's in one photo, and so on and so on.
From a company.
And
the companies have their own photos.
Yeah,
of course, yes.
And then we uploaded that. Put them on a USB and plug that USB into the TV. So if it's like a Monday night and we're like, what are we going to watch tonight? Let's watch something new. We'll go through the photos on the USB and go, let's watch that. And so maybe like a week or two ago, we were going through and we saw the photo for Return to House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like the sequel they made to this, which I only found out about like a year or two ago. I was like, oh, there's a sequel to that?
Yeah, you wouldn't have think it would need it.
Yeah, and so I saw it at JB. The Blu-ray was $5.49.
Yeah.
So I was like, sold. And I bought it, and we decided to watch that, but we were like, let's watch the original first so we can get a good flow of it. So, and that was like 2 weeks ago, and now you're asking us to do this.
Apparently, Marilyn Manson was originally proposed to play Jeffrey Combs's, unfortunately, very small role in this film. I can kind of see that because a lot of the aesthetics of this plays into, I don't know when his video for the Dope Show came out, or Beautiful People as well. Yeah. Like a bunch of his music videos had this kind of aesthetic.
Well, I feel like around a certain time period, they were saying Marilyn Manson was going to be in everything. Because I remember them talking about him playing Willy Wonka in that movie that Johnny Depp ended up doing. Do you reckon it would have been, I know you love Jeff, but do you reckon it would have been better or worse if Marilyn Manson was in this?
Worse.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Jeff is great and Marilyn Manson is a gross, abusive sex pest.
But I guess that's the role, right?
That's true.
Like a gross, like creep.
Well, no, but Marilyn Manson is gross in real life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I thought he was a nice guy.
No, some stuff came out this year.
Okay.
Well, in this movie, there's a really good cover of Sweet Dreams by Marilyn Manson, which I hate to say, but it is quite good. But he does suck. Anyway. And, I mean, even from the opening credits already of this movie, it's already very like William Maloney. It's very like twitchy, grim, dark, a bit dirty, but it's going for more the medical horror angle rather than something like the techno horror angle that he goes for in Fear.com. The opening shot of the house is beautiful, which is also the cover of the DVD that you have, or Blu-ray, I apologize. It's on a haunted hill. You can see it.
Can I just clarify this title? This title always confused me as a kid, and it still does to this day.
Go on.
The hill isn't haunted. The house is. So shouldn't it be haunted house on hill? Why is it house on haunted hill? I never got that as a kid. And if it is house on haunted hill, why'd they build the house there? Shouldn't it have been a tip-off when it was haunted hill? Like, let's not build there. Let's go to non-haunted hill.
I never thought about this before.
Okay, well, either the hill was already haunted and they built the house on there.
Pretty much explain why it's haunted.
Yes.
Because of the trauma that happened in the asylum type house.
Yes, but did the trauma happen
because of the hill?
The hill was haunted.
But it's not even a hill.
Yeah.
It's a cliff.
Yeah, it's a cliff in this one. Anyway.
Isn't it Hill House?
No,
No.
that's the haunting.
That's the haunting of Hill House.
Oh.
Like, I know what you're saying. Like, maybe the hill was haunted and they built the house there and then all these haunted things happened because there was a haunted hill. But, like, all the people haunting the house are the ghosts of people that were once in the house and died traumatically or something. Yeah. So what was haunted about the hill before the house was built there? I would love to see a prequel, just Haunted Hill. When the hills are alive with the sound of haunting. Like something like that.
The hills are alive with the sound of ghosts. It is very precarious as well, as you mentioned. It's not really so much at the top of a hill. It's sort of in the edge of a cliff. Yeah, it really does look like you're about to fall right into the ocean. We quickly cut to a 1931 newsreel that sort of catches us up on what happened. So there was a massive fire at the Vannicut Psychiatric Hospital for the Criminally Insane. And in the show, we're introduced to Dr. Vannicut, Jeffrey Combs.
Who you like, when I was a kid and I saw this, I'm like, oh man, he's going to be so great in this.
Yeah.
He's going to have so many good lines that I'm going to be repeating.
Can't wait to see more of this actor.
Yeah.
What's annoying is that I hadn't seen, before I did it for this episode, I hadn't seen this movie for several years.
Yeah,
and
same.
before I did it, I thought in my head I misremembered how much he was in this movie.
Yeah, same.
I think I thought that he was in it more, and he really isn't. He doesn't even have lines.
And as we told you, in the sequel, he's the only person that comes back, right, from this movie, which is strange that he even did come back. But anyway, you're like, oh, okay, so now that he's the only person that come back, he's the only person in the sequel that anybody knows. Whereas this cast is pretty star-studded. It might not have been in 99.
It's a pretty star-studded cast. It also had a much bigger budget than most William Malone movies. I think it had a budget of about $20 million. And another nice difference is that this movie actually did pretty well. It made, I think, double its budget. Well, Dr. Vannicut was apparently this deadly doctor gone mad who did experiments on his patients and then killed heaps of people. We're going to learn more about that as the film goes on.
And do you reckon that's why he got cast? Because he is a doctor in this?
He does play a doctor a lot. I think off the top of my head, I can think of at least 8 or 9 movies where he's played a doctor.
Yeah,
so
it's just so bizarre they got him, like, for such a small nothing role.
So I think he would have worked with William Malone before this once on the Perversions of Science episode that he did, that Jeff was in. So I assume that he just became friends with William Malone from that, which is why he has subsequently been in a lot of William Malone films. So the first characters of the motley crew that we have are Evelyn Famke Janssen from X-Men, GoldenEye, and more importantly, The Faculty, and Stephen Price, Jeffrey Rush from Pirates of the Caribbean, Mystery Men, and some dodgy allegations in recent months. He looks like John Waters in this movie, which apparently is on purpose. It's a decision made by Rush to look like John Waters.
Yeah, what? Why?
Yeah. And he also unintentionally looks a lot like Vincent Price, which was probably also a nod to the fact that Rush is playing Vincent Price's role from the original House on Haunted Hill in 1959.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was so weird. It's like, and I'm trying to look like John Waters, and it's like, you look like the guy that played the role originally.
Yeah.
I also like that you said from Pirates of the Caribbean and Mystery Men, where he's probably sitting in his chair like, everyone knows me for my great work in the piano. No, not the piano. What is it?
Shine.
Shine. Sorry. yeah, I'm getting out. But I feel like he's done so many big, like, acclaimed things. And I love that 90s kids are always like, and he was in Mystery Men.
Because Mystery Men's sick.
Yeah.
Evelyn and Stephen are married, and Stephen is opening up a new theme park. He makes theme parks. We cut back to the 30s, and Vanica is doing some Vanna cutting. Hey, I'm doing scissors. I'm doing a scissors motion here. There's some nasty looking surgeries. Clearly, he was a bit of a Dr. Mengele, kind of doing experiments on his patients. I like the look that Jeff has in this. He's got a lot of great period costume, glasses. He's got this horrible little mustache that makes him look like a evil businessman. Yeah.
Hey, you know what though? I just realized Jeffrey Rush is trying to look like John Waters and coincidentally looks like Vincent Price, but totally acts like William Castle in this movie.
Yeah, he does
like
too,
with all
with
these
the
gimmicks and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what William Castle was like. So I really feel like this is like the most on-screen depiction of William Castle I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Suddenly the patients are all attacking the staff of the hospital. It's a riot. Something bad has gone down at this hospital. Back at Price's theme park, he takes a reporter and her cameraman on a tour. The reporter is played by Lisa Loeb, 90s singer-songwriter Lisa Loeb, and her cameraman is played by James Masters, Spike from Buffy.
This is the most 90s cast.
It's
I just realized as you're
Yeah.
saying this, I'm like, wow.
Extremely period
Hello,
appropriate.
childhood.
Mhm. Evelyn wants to have her birthday party at the House on Haunted Hill, from the title. She gives Stephen a guest list, which he summarily shreds and makes his own. And he's like, haha, I hate my wife. And he does. They both hate each other. Why are you married? And then the computer somehow makes its own list. Ah!
Yeah, I was like,
Computer on Haunted Hill.
it doesn't make any sense. The office isn't haunted or the computer.
I guess
How did
computers
they
were
know?
sort of being used so much in movies now. At that time, in the 99, internet was kind of becoming big.
It's like the ghosts overheard them talking about it. And it's like, they're coming here?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know the perfect guest list.
Well, they throw in a line somewhere about the energy of the house can get into machines and through phone lines and things like that.
It reminds me of that Mickey Mouse cartoon, Lonesome Ghosts, where they ring up the ghost hunters
Yeah.
to get Goofy and Mickey and Donald to come catch them and then just tease them.
Yeah.
But they use the telephone, and I'm like, these ghosts are making phone prank calls?
Yeah. You'd think the receiver would go through their head. So the central premise for the party guests, according to their invites, is stay the entire night in the spooky house and be rewarded with $1 million. Classic premise. Would you do that?
Yeah, I always thought about this
Yeah.
when I was a kid. Stay in a haunted house for $1 million. I don't think the $1 million would motivate me to do it. I think just staying in the haunted house would
You'd
be
do it
enough
for free.
motivation.
I know I would do it because, well, one year for my birthday, Rob tricked me.
yeah. This is
And
my favorite prank I ever did.
Yeah, so for my birthday, it was the last present I opened. And he was like, this is your main present. This is my big gift. And I opened it up, and it was like this crappy little wooden box with a fake spider inside and a piece of paper. And I opened it up, and it was like, a voucher to a haunted house that was just for Rob and I.
And I was like, it's like a star treatment haunted house experience. And I tried to make it as scary as possible.
He was
to-
like, they split you up halfway through the house. It goes for 10 hours. And at some points you'll be in the room by yourself. And in this haunted house, they can actually touch you. At some points you might even have to swim. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
And I was like,
God.
and it's just, I heard it's like the scariest thing of all time. And we're horror fans. So, I just thought you'd love it for your birthday. I basically want to give her the worst birthday present of all time.
Why would you do that? You
So
love
then
her.
after she starts sweating about it, be like, I'm just kidding. I
Well,
actually
he
got
let
you
me
beautiful
sweat
wedding
the whole
rings.
day. So we went to the movies and stuff, and I was thinking about it the whole time.
But yeah, but the point is, at the end of it, I asked Liz, so would you actually do this? You can tell me if you don't like the present, if you don't want to do it. And crazy, she was like, yeah, I'll do it. And was totally on board for it. I was like, what a trooper.
If she'll marry you, she'll get into anything, eh? Hey!
Well, that's true. Would you do it? Would you stay on
Absolutely.
the haunted hill for chance to win $1 million.
For sure. I don't believe in ghosts, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't
so
scare me.
I don't believe in ghosts either, but my motivation would be, I think it would be fun to stay in with a group of strangers in a haunted house or a supposedly haunted house.
If you tell me it's haunted, I'm not going to expect to see anything, but I'm gonna be like, this is a cool vibe.
But
What if it was really haunted, like ghosts did exist?
What, so you know for a fact?
Place in the world, and you had to stay there.
Are they malevolent ghosts?
You don't know.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it would be different if, like, what kind of ghosts are they? Are they the ghosts that can't really touch you?
Well, I guess there's a bit of both in this.
I think I could.
hypothetical.
I think I could. Piece of crumb cake. I think I could do it.
The guests are met at the gate by the owner of the house, Pritchett, played by Chris Kattan from SNL and Night at the Roxbury.
Corky Romano.
Corky, that classic Corky Romano. He's actually pretty good in this. Apparently a lot of his dialogue is impro, which was encouraged by William Malone.
And he's actually kind of funny. Normally he's so over the top. Like,
yeah.
He's normally pretty funny and likable, but normally he's so goofy. He's kind of toned down a little bit in this. Maybe because it's horror. He's trying to, like,
not much room for slapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with a decent script, he's a very actually good comic performer. The rest of the guests are Peter Gallagher from the OC, the dad from the OC, as Blackburn, who's a doctor, strongest eyebrows in the business.
What about Eugene Levy?
That's true. Fuck. I'm so sorry, Eugene. If you're listening, I apologize. I did not mean to disgrace your eyebrows, Eugene. Please. We got Taye Diggs from Empire as Eddie, a former baseball player. We've got Ali Larter, one of the most fun names to say, from Final Destination and Legally Blonde as Jennifer, a film exec. And Bridget Wilson from Billy Madison and Last Action Hero as Melissa, who is a quote-unquote celebrity, who's filming a lot of this with a video camera because she's trying to get a clip show going to put on TV. I don't know. The annoying thing is that Bridget Wilson and Ali Larter look far too similar to be in the same core cast.
Yeah, I think so too.
The set looks lovely. Like, it's really grim, the house on the haunted hill.
It's the house on the hill. I keep saying that because there's like this bad rap song from the 80s about House on Haunted Hill. He's like, house on the hill. It's the house on the haunted hill. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It's very grim, but it's like dark, but with like Art Deco. So it's actually very period appropriate for when it was a hospital. Evelyn arrives, and the beautiful stained glass skylight collapses in on her. So Stephen is like, hey, you reckon this place is cursed or what? And Pritchett explains that his grandfather built the house, and he died. And then his dad died in the house in a construction accident, but he's fine. He's like, I'm all right. I feel fine, even though I'm clearly terrified of this place.
And all of this happened in the house, not just on the hill.
No. In the house, but the house is on the hill.
The house is on the hill. Yeah, okay.
The scenes with Rush and Jensen are great. Obviously, they're very reminiscent of the original, where Vincent Price and Carol Omart play the same characters, and they fucking hate each other in that movie as well.
Yeah.
It's obviously very different because that's from the 50s, and so, you know, the insults are much more dry and cutting. And
I feel like these two, Rush and Jensen, have better chemistry than Price and who was the original actress?
Carol Omart.
Yeah, I feel like I like their chemistry more.
Really?
Yeah. Do you reckon? I like Vincent Price a lot, and so I think he overshadows in the original. But I think both of Famke Janssen and Jeffrey Rush are super strong and likable.
Yeah, they are strong. I think as this movie goes on, I got a bit sick of their dynamic because it was a bit one note.
Yeah. And it also goes in a really ridiculous, like, place.
Oh my, it does, yes. They're very much like just trading barbs and hateful looks. It's delicious. Here's just a little clip of what it sounds like.
Get off of me, you pervert.
Congratulations. I don't think Evelyn said those words to anything with testicles. Ever.
Very funny, Stephen. Have you?
I think you're taking this awfully well for a woman who was just nearly killed.
Yeah. Well, I guess you'll just have to try harder next time. That is, if you can get it up.
Not me, Tulip. The house. I think it's marked you to be the first to die this evening.
Pritchett is very keen to leave, but before he can, the house puts itself into lockdown. The windows shut up. Big metal
Not
doors come down.
lockdown.
Oh.
No, just kidding.
Imagine being in lockdown.
Those words are like scarred in
Actually,
my
when we
brain
watched this 2
now.
weeks ago, we were saying how funny that is.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
lockdown they're like, one night. I don't want to be in lockdown for one night. I'm like, oh, damn it, anti-vaxxers. Why are they all in this house?
Pritchett explains that this is how everyone died in the 30s, though. Vannegut switched the lockdown button so that when the fire started back then, he was like, if I die, you guys all die.
And that happened in the 30s, and they still didn't get rid of that button.
Yeah.
Pritchett is very matter of fact. He says this.
Why hasn't that machine been disabled? It was on my dad's list of things to do, but the house did them first.
Well, you said that was an accident.
I lied. The house is alive. We're all gonna die.
But hang on, why is the house alive? Because it's on the hill. So shouldn't he be saying the hill's alive? With the sound of hauntings? I couldn't not say that again. But yeah, because they constantly refer to the house being haunted, never the hill. No one mentions that. I think I'm harping on this too much.
Yeah, I think maybe Haunted Hill is just a name. I've got.
Oh, so that's the location?
Yeah. It's just you're putting Google Maps.
Yeah. Take me to Haunted Hill, Siri. The house on Haunted Hill? There's only one.
No, the 7-Eleven on Haunted Hill.
Not in the sequel. Remember across the street there's just another house?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, who's gonna live there?
The other house on Haunted Hill.
Yeah. No, that's a shed. That's shed on Haunted Hill.
Oh, I wouldn't mind living in a California bungalow on Haunted Hill.
Yeah. Actually, I left a bike on Haunted Hill.
I left my heart on Haunted Hill. So there's a big coffin in the room. It's filled with smaller coffins, which I don't know where you get those tiny little coffins, but they're great. I want to keep my jewelry in that. And in each tiny coffin is a gun. Gun coffin.
Gun on Haunted Hill.
Pritchett, Eddie, and Jennifer go down into the basement to see if there's like a reverse switch for the lockdown thingy. They find what I guess is sort of like plasticinated, dipped in plastic. Whatever that process is called.
Turbo Man.
Yep. Ultra melted.
Yeah.
It's bodies like that anyway. And there's like a guy, like a plastinated guy, on a plastinated horse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it sort of reminds me of like, because we've got Farlap at the museum
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. Maybe they should dip Farlap in plastic. Keep him nice and fresh. He looks pretty good actually for a 100-year-old horse.
That creeped me out as a kid. That was weird.
Not Farlap at the museum.
Yeah.
Why?
Do you reckon?
Because
It's really him, right?
yeah.
That's
Taxidermy.
kind of creepy, isn't it?
It's kind of weird the
Like a
fact that they
dead
like
horse?
separated him up because like I think his body is here and then I think his like heart or something is like in New Zealand or something.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell?
I have a vague
No, I think you're right.
factoid somewhere.
Yeah, I think I've.
They get Farlap's heart, and we get the.
Yeah, you can have the heart. We'll have the.
No, we only
steering.
want the heart. We
Yeah.
don't want the body.
So weird.
What do you think made him run so good, Lucy?
I think in Germany they have his comb that used to brush his hair at the museum. They really got stewed.
It is quite jarring though when you go to if you haven't been to the Melbourne Museum here. If you're in Melbourne, I highly recommend it. It's a lovely place. But it is jarring when you walk around into the sort of Melbourne Victoria exhibit and there's just a horse in glass looking at you.
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of creepy. I
you
hope.
forget how big horses are.
He's, and when you're little as well.
Also,
Even
Farlap's like
bigger.
a lot bigger than most horses, right?
I may have misled you, Rob, with all those times I told you I knew what average horses were and how tall they usually are.
I actually am the one that put Farlap in that museum. I went in and said, I can catch a horse. It'll cost you. I can get you the head, the heart, the whole thing.
Maybe not the heart. I promise that to New Zealand.
Yeah.
He just chased Farlap around with a big butterfly net. The whole time Price has a guy, Stephen, he has a guy up in the room watching them all on security cameras. This doesn't come into it much, but he pops in there a few times. The sets are great in this movie. I really like the nice details of each room. Like every room they go into, you can very clearly tell, okay, this was a room for electroshock therapy. This was clearly someone's bedroom or something. Like, props are really good. It doesn't look cheap, I think, is the difference, which
Yeah.
is definitely different to the other William Malone films I have seen.
And even sort of the original. The original seems like you could kind of get close to filming that yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's like sort of on like 1 or 2 sets. And then they've just got that acid pit in the basement.
This movie has that scary vibe about it that I felt when I was a kid whenever I watched a movie about an asylum or something and like quicksand or lava. I always thought that I'd end up in an asylum or something like that. Or that it would be a big problem in my life as I grew up.
Yeah. Psychiatric institutions are not really like that anymore, thankfully.
But yeah, when you're a kid, you always think of them that way. You're like, oh my God.
They're going to get me and fry my brain.
And all the old movies, like, they always end up in it from the smallest thing. They just do one slight crazy thing and they're like, well, take him to the nut house.
One of my family members did our like family tree. One of the relatives, I don't know if it was like the first English man who came to Australia, because obviously that's one part of my background. It was either the first or his son. One of those people died in Kew Asylum. And the listing of the death was, quote, brain disease.
Oh,
and I still don't know what that means, because I think, as far as I'm aware, that's like a super vague thing. Like that could mean anything from like Alzheimer's to epilepsy to like alcoholism.
Yeah.
It's a really catch-all term.
Well, they probably didn't know much themselves back then, right?
Yeah.
Still with mental illness and stuff these days, they don't know too much or how to treat people.
They even used to think the hill was haunted. And they didn't realize it was the house.
Those fucking fools.
Yeah.
They find the electroshock therapy room and the saturation room, which has a big chamber in it, in which patients were like, the idea is that they're bombarded with images that were meant to drive them sane. Like Pritchard,
the reverse of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, Pritchard talks about how the theory, apparently, he may have just been being cheeky about it, but he said that the theory was that it was the kind of images that drove a sane person mad, so that they would drive a mad person sane. I don't think that's how psychiatry works.
And as Pritchard's explaining this, it's like, this would have been a great line for Jeff to explain why he was doing this.
Yeah.
You could have put that in there, but anyway, whatever.
So many points where he could have just been in the movie.
Yeah, where he could have spoken stuff.
A line, anywhere,
you reckon they
a
were-
clear shot.
Were
perhaps?
they trying to go to make him creepier by not speaking? Because that didn't really work so much.
No, because whenever he does pop up, he is quite menacing. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, just more of that.
Yeah.
Not going to tell you how to do your job, William Malone. So Pritchard and Price get separated from Eddie and Jennifer. Jennifer reveals, dun dun dun, she's actually Sarah, who was the real Jennifer's assistant and took her invite. That doesn't seem like it's going to matter now, but it will at the end. So stick around. So Sarah sees what she thinks is Eddie, and it's very clearly not Eddie. Like, it's like a ghost or something, or an illusion. And the ghost dives into a vat of blood. Why is that vat there? This is where we keep the blood.
And whose blood is this? Where did they get all this blood from?
Why would you keep the blood? She's trying to pull Eddie out of the vat. She's like, no, don't drown. And then the real Eddie is like, what are you doing around the corner?
That's such a 90s ghost trick.
Yeah.
I think that happens in every one of these movies. I'm pretty sure it happens in Ghost Ship, 13 Ghosts. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm right here. It's like, what?
Then who am I? Oh, no.
And then they just like brush it off like it never happened, or they're like, oh, must have just dreamt it in the day.
I think they kind of acknowledge that, like, hey, this house is a bit funky.
Yeah.
This house is a bit strange.
The funny thing is, in the movies, whenever that happens, it's quite scary. But in real life, whenever that happens, right? And just stick with me for a second.
Yeah, go on.
Because I was working at a cemetery once, cleaning windows there, just at the cemetery. And I climbed up on the ladder to clean this one window. And there was this Irish cleaner. and she got like the fright of her life because I popped up in front of the window and I went in to apologize. And she's like, oh, that's okay. I thought you were a ghost. I thought I'd seen a ghost. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I would tell everyone that story and they weren't quite interested in that story. So I started adding a little flair to it.
Yeah.
And whenever I'd tell people this story, I'd be like, and then I saw another cleaner and I didn't want to scare him. So I said, hey, just to let you know, I'm going to be cleaning windows out there because I scared the Irish cleaner before. And he said to me, that Irish cleaner's been dead for years. Right? And that always got a laugh. So in real life, people think that's quite funny. It's like, that was just a ghost. That's a good punchline. But in the movies, it's always like, oh my God, it was a ghost.
Yeah, it is that situation where it's funny when it happens to someone else.
Yeah. Because if that happened to you, right? Just say at the end of this, you were like, all right, thanks, Rob and Lucy. That was really good. And then we came in the door and we're like, sorry, we're late. Surely that would get a big laugh.
Oh, yeah. It'd be hilarious.
And then you looked and the microphones were just floating in the air.
Oh, no. Well, if they were they're floating, or if they were floating, it'd be one thing. If they were just down on the table, I would
just
assume
down.
I was insane.
And we're like, Dib, what are you doing in our house?
Yeah.
Didn't we warn you it's House on Haunted Street?
I think in most situations where something paranormal happened, I would just assume that something was wrong with my mental health.
Yeah, especially if you recorded this whole podcast. But
and I'm just doing all of your voices. Hi, I'm Rob. Hi, I'm Lucy.
I would want to listen
sound
back to
like.
that more than anything.
The only memory I have of anything even vaguely supernatural was when I was like probably 6, 7, 8, thereabouts. I don't have a great memory of it, but I remember being at a wedding reception, and me and a bunch of other little kids went down to like the underground car park, and we all thought we saw a werewolf because we could have sworn that we saw someone jump up onto a car, onto the roof of a car, and go rah and like scream, and that they were really hairy. And we all like ran up and we're all like, we saw a werewolf. And to this day, like I can still picture the image in my head, and I'm like, if it wasn't a werewolf, I can't explain
It was
what
just
it was.
a hairy man.
But the way he
Which
jumped
is
up
just
onto the
as
car.
scary.
From the ground? He jumped from the ground to the roof of the car?
In my mind, he did. I was a child.
To this day, I hope that something paranormal happens to me. Like, I'm always wanting something like that to happen, but I always just get so skeptical of everything. The closest paranormal experience I've ever had is whenever I see like a light going quick in the sky. I'm like, what? That looks a bit too quick for an aeroplane. That seems like I might have to call Mulder and Scully to investigate. But yeah, that's the closest I've ever been to a believer. It's like, what can that light be? It's going so quick and it's going up and stuff. Because when I was a kid, like my family was quite Catholic and always tried to push me to be Catholic, and it never really took with me. But Catholicism has like sort of everything I was looking for. It has like all these mystical creatures and like crazy stories and monsters and stuff. But I was like, and I just hated that so much. But then I was like, but maybe that guy's a vampire. And like, I just wanted all that stuff to be true.
Jesus vampire.
I was like, I wish there was a zombie, which Jesus kind of is. Yeah. But I was like, I don't care about that zombie.
I want a cool zombie. I want a Bruce Campbell zombie. All right, the group reassembles, except Melissa, who's gone a wandering with her video camera. There's a great shot where when she points her video camera at a surgical table, the room is empty, but she points her video camera at the surgical table, and she can see in the viewfinder what happened there back in the 30s. So Vannicutt's doing dodgy surgeries, and there's a great moment where they all look up at her, very creepy, as if they know she's in the room.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great moment. When the rest of the Scooby Gang go to where she was, all that's left is a pool of blood and her camera on the floor.
Dun, dun, dun.
So when they watch whatever Melissa was filming, it's very clear that she was attacked and dragged away somewhere. Stephen and Evelyn still think that either of them are behind it. Like, it's actually kind of annoying the way that they just keep this one note of just like, you're a bitch, You're clearly gay. Oh, you sleep with a lot of guys. I hate you. I wish we could get a divorce. Why don't you?
Yeah, I hate couples like this. It's so irritating, people, because there are real people that act like this.
It's hard for the rest of us to measure up to you guys because, listener, you don't know Rob and Lucy, but they are disgustingly in love. They are adorable with each other, and it's frankly hideous. I mean, if they weren't my friends, I would loathe them.
Hey, if we weren't each other's friends, we would loathe us.
Well, when Stephen goes up to see his mate in the video room, the guy's face has been ripped off. That is a great practical effect.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, that was quite effective
that,
because there's just no face.
Yeah.
It's just a big hole.
Is it like a spin of the chair thing? Or am I making that up?
No, he spins the guy
the
around. He's like,
chair.
"How dare you?" Spins the chair, and then it's
Mother?
it's a great
And
prop.
where is the face? It never shows up, does it?
No.
I guess it's part of the hill now.
Yeah. It's just got buried
Hill-
up there. Hill face.
Face on Haunted Hill.
And then Stephen, another great little moment. Stephen sees in the security footage that's meant to be live of the house, he sees Vanicut in there with a big old knife. I also like the way that, I don't know if they were like, Jeffrey, you have to walk like this in the security footage because you're a ghost, I guess. But he's sort of walking in this like very staccato.
Like stilted
Yeah.
type way. Yeah.
So everyone goes off in their own little adventures. Evelyn goes to bed. Pritchett goes looking for booze. Blackburn is doing God knows what. He has barely showed up in this movie. Eddie and Sarah are trying to pry open the metal doors with what looks like King Triton's like trident thing. But they do all end up together in the basement where they see Evelyn getting very badly electrocuted by the electroshock machine. Terrible electrocution. She is fucked.
It almost seems sus.
So she dies, ostensibly. Stephen starts going a bit apeshit, and then they lock him in the compression chamber thing because he starts threatening them. Blackburn very suspiciously elects to stay and make sure he doesn't get out. This little interaction I thought was very strange.
So you're gonna stay, make sure he doesn't get out?
I'll stay and keep an eye on him.
You're gonna be okay by yourself?
I hope.
He's weirdly chill, like
Yeah.
pleasant even. But then his true intentions come to the boil because he does knowingly turn the compression chamber on when Stephen is in it. And inside it's like a zoetrope, which I had to look up the name.
What?
because-
I don't know what that is.
So
What's a
they're
zoetrope?
those things. There's one at Acme in Melbourne, if you've been there. It's one of those things where there's a bunch of, it's kind of like a flip book. It's a bunch of pictures, except they're in like a salad spinner.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
It reminded me of in Conjuring 2, the Crooked Man toy.
Yeah.
That's the same
yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
The image is of Vanicut bouncing a ball. Very menacingly.
yeah.
This leads into a hallucination, perhaps, where Stephen is in the place of one of the hospital staff killed by the patients of the hospital. This whole sequence is actually quite effective. He's dumped into a vat of water. There's a woman already dead in there. She gets like a monster face.
Another 90s ghost thing. There's always like a dead person in the water or something.
Floating with their eyes
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
There's not as much like monstery type face. There's a few little flashes of things here and there. But they are very William Maloney, the kind of ideas that they're going for. Eddie and Sarah realize that everyone who was invited to the party is or was a descendant of the staff at the hospital where it burnt down. There's your twist. You like it? Good. Eat it. Pritchett is trying to impress upon them that it's the house that's responsible for all this. He's like, it's got energy. It's got haunted energy.
yeah. And I'm just thinking, it's the hill.
You're yelling at the TV.
Yeah.
Lucy's
It's the
like,
hill.
"Well, no, it's the hill," stomping around.
Pack the house up and take it off the hill.
We find Blackburn fondling the dead Evelyn. He puts his hand under her dress and goes, "Cool," like a 14-year-old boy. It's kind of gross. But then you also realize that he reanimates her, like that movie.
Yeah.
Like that movie From Beyond. And they kiss. They're secret lovers. They're in cahoots. The electrification thing, all a trick. Basically, they want Stephen to get the blame for all of this, and they want one of the guests to kill Stephen in self-defense so that Stephen can be dead, but they will not be blamed for it. So much easier than just getting a divorce.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This gets so crazy
Yeah.
at this point.
So convoluted. But everything else is classic haunting. Shockingly, to keep the ruse of the haunted house going, Evelyn kills Blackburn. Another twist. Which is fine, because Blackburn was pretty pointless in this movie. Evelyn lets Stephen out of the chamber. When he finds Sarah, he begs her for help. And Sarah shoots him like 10 times. It's a bit much. When Evelyn is talking to his body, though, she's basically talking to his corpse and being like, hated you, all I wanted was your money, blah, blah, blah. All those normal things you say to your husband after they die. He comes back to life. Bulletproof vest, baby.
Yeah.
Everyone's coming back to life in this movie.
Every time, and when this happens, I'm like, did they need another twist at this point?
No.
It's like,
Too many twists.
yeah. Twist on Haunted Hill.
He's like, I'm going to kill you, darling. But then he goes back on that when the darkness takes her. So the darkness is our next character, I suppose. It's this sort of ghostly fog that corrodes you, I guess. It sort of turns you into ashes, but it also makes you part of the house. It's very creepy.
I
Whatever-
disagree.
Really?
Yeah, and I would say this is the main reason I forget this movie. Like, I always forget this when it ends. And I reckon the darkness, I reckon that looks so bad.
I think it's a product of its time. I don't think it looks as cheap and nasty as other things of the time period. I think it could be more effective.
I can't really remember how I felt about it when I first saw it, but watching it now, it is so dated.
In some parts, it is. Like, in sometimes when there's a wide shot, it looks a little bit like, oh God, I'm going to have to post a picture of this because there's no way that I'm going to describe it accurately enough, but it looks a little bit like a damask print.
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys knew what I was talking
Yeah.
about. Sometimes when it would have a close-up and you would see, like, the face of the person who had just died in it, and it would talk to the person. I thought that was reasonably effective.
This movie, the first half, I really like. In fact, I sort of forgot this movie and whether I liked it or not. And when we watched it this time, I was like, oh, this first half is really, really good. And then I just think it gets a little rickety towards the end. And I think a lot of it has to do with this ghost popping up.
This darkness
popping up.
Yeah. The darkness is meant to be, I guess, the sort of the physical manifestation of the evil and suffering that the house has incurred.
I just don't think they nailed it. As I was saying to Luce, to me, it sort of feels like they had a bit of a poochy writer's room with this. And they're like, it's got to look like cloudy and dark with people's faces in it. Something like that. And then he leaves the room and they're like, cloudy and dark with people's faces in it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay to everyone? Yeah, sure, that sounds good. You know that Del Toro produced movie, I think, Mama?
Yes.
That came out? It's very similar to that in some ways. The
Yeah.
way I remember it. And that movie got a lot of criticism for the CGI. And
I didn't particularly like the CGI in that.
yeah, and I think that's what maybe lets this down. I mean, I know it's not meant to have color, but it looks so bland and stuff.
Well, according to there's a great little factoid on the IMDb, and I like the detail at the end of whoever wrote this. This is in the sort of making of. When creating the black evil that attacks the surviving cast at the end of the film, the animators used images of nude women. They took film of nude women dancing, mirrored the image, and then repeated that image hundreds of times at different sizes to make the spidery shapes you see in the finished movie. If you pause the DVD and look closely, you can make out some of the women.
Oh, wow. So there is some sort of practical side to this. It's literally not just CGI gunk.
It's animation, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that detail of, like, if you pause it right, you can see you can see some titties in the smoke. There's tits in other parts of this movie.
Yeah.
So the darkness takes Pritchett quite unceremoniously. He gets a bit of a bum rap. And there's some beautiful shots of the house, like, coming to life, you know, sort of like growing a mouth and following the people as they escape it. It's quite creepy. So Eddie, Sarah, and Stephen Price, they head up into the attic to try to find a way out. Stephen redeems himself in this bit by gallantly pushing himself into the darkness to save Sarah. Everything else he's done in the movie is null and void now because he did this one good thing.
Yeah.
Although, in fairness, most of the film has been him being like, this isn't me. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
because, like, Evelyn keeps going, this is you. You're such a dick.
Yeah.
You know, this is all you. And he's like, it's not me.
Yeah.
I swear it's not.
It was more her.
They find an open window that basically looks right out onto the ocean, like a sheer drop. I would be more scared of that than anything in the house. I'd be like, let the darkness take me. I'm not going to sit on that ledge that just drops into the ocean. I love the ocean. I don't like heights. Sarah makes it out onto the ledge. Eddie's trapped inside. But Ghost Pritchett helps them. That's really cute. Like, Ghost Pritchett's taken by the house, and then with his last, I don't know, ghostly powers, he, like, opens the lever and lets Eddie out. And they put this little line in it just to make sure that you know. But Eddie also says, I have nothing to do with any of this. I was adopted. So outside on the ledge, Eddie and Sarah catch their breath and they find an envelope. Somehow, all of the $1 million checks that Stephen had been flashing at the start of the night are in that envelope.
And this is meant to be a real happy ending. But they're up there and they're never getting down.
It's a little bit of a comedic ending because Sarah states the obvious and she says, one more thing, how do we get down from here?
Yeah.
Which is a good point because it is so far, like you couldn't jump into that water, you'd die.
But it's kind of funny, but not because they're dead.
Yeah,
there is no way down.
No one's coming for them. Yeah.
There's no way to like scale the rest of the house.
An abandoned area. Like
It always reminded me of the ending of Deep Blue Sea because it's just like two people stranded somewhere after all this tragedy.
See, I never remember the ending of Deep Blue Sea because the credits rap is so effective.
yeah. Deepest, bluest, hardest like a shark spin.
They're going to look very suspicious cashing those checks as well. It's like, oh, Stephen Price gave you $5 million? Where's he? In the darkness. Come with us.
Even if they do get down, they're in big trouble because it's not the house that was haunted, it's the hill.
Out of the haunted house and onto the hill.
Yeah.
That famous phrase. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's an after credits scene as well.
Oh, yeah, we watched that.
It's a very menacing after credits scene of basically filmed at the time when the patients were running riot in the hospital. And basically the patients are just torturing and killing Evelyn and Stephen. That one's particularly spooky because there's no music in it. It's just quiet and you're just watching them suffer. And you kind of get this idea that that's what the darkness is. It's like hell.
Yeah.
You can pull the lever as the final ghost move. How come the darkness can't just put it back up?
Yeah, I don't know why Pritchett got to be like a proper ghost and everyone else just had to be part of the house.
Yeah.
And that's House on Haunted Hill. Sure was a house on a hill.
How did it compare to the original for you?
I'm not particularly like a huge fan of either of them.
Of it, yeah.
I think
neither.
I prefer the original purely because I do love Vincent Price and I love old movies. And this did not have nearly enough Jeffrey Combs for my liking. Thank you. I mean, I know that shouldn't be the make or break for most people, but it is for me.
But they're like the star power of both of them for me. It's like Jeffrey and Vincent. And it's like you've got those two.
Yeah.
And Vincent's given heaps to do. And Jeffrey's given nothing to do.
And what about in the original? It's got that acid pit.
Yeah.
Did you miss the acid pit in this?
Yeah. Yeah, because I always like in that movie, it's like, why did they put that in there? Every single bad person falls in that acid pit.
Yeah.
If only that wasn't there.
You should put a gate around it. You know, I like a good haunted house story.
Me too.
I like the idea of
the candle is like wheezing.
the candle screaming.
Yeah. Hang on. Candle on Haunted Hill.
It's quite creepy. It sort of sounds like it's complaining.
It's like buzzing like a bee.
Can I go to bed now? Been on for so long.
Yeah.
Let me out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys have seen the original as well?
Yeah.
How do you compare them?
We've seen the original probably more than... we watched the original a lot.
I like the original better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say I like the original better because of Vincent Price. I don't know. I like them both.
I think the original has a better script.
Yeah.
This, like, the script is, like, serviceable.
They're a good double feature, though, because they're pretty different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So you can watch them together, and it flows pretty well.
That's what 40-odd years of filmmaking in between will do for you. If you're going to remake a movie, you have to make it substantially different. Because
Yeah.
You're not going to be the original. I mean, for some reason, this is the first comparison that came to my mind. But if they were ever going to make Re-Animator, for instance, you wouldn't want them to just try and make Re-Animator because we're not in 1985. Yeah. Jeffrey Combs is not 31. Stuart Gordon's dead.
Well, I thought they did that really well with Evil Dead because I was really big into Evil Dead. And for me, Bruce Campbell was like, you're Jeff. I was like, I loved Bruce Campbell when I was a kid. And I loved the first Evil Dead. Everyone always liked the second Evil Dead the most. But I thought the first was funnier. But yeah, anyway, I always thought when they were going to remake Evil Dead, I just thought, oh, this is going to be so bad. Yeah. But then when I saw it, I actually liked it a lot because it's so different. And I think if they were going to redo Re-Animator, they just couldn't try to be like, oh, and this is that character. It would have to be something so totally different.
Well, that's sort of what they did. I know that there is, and I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but there is a very low budget Italian film that's called Herbert West: Re-Animator. And it is, I think it's a completely different story. I think it's like Herbert West's daughter dies and he has to try to bring her back with this reagent. It certainly doesn't sound fun in the way that the 1985 one is. And it is going for something quite different. Again, I don't think necessarily they're remaking Re-Animator. I think they're making a different story based on the original properties of Re-Animator.
But Jeffrey Combs is so, like, iconic. So I always feel like people like that, it would be really hard to remake movies with them in. Like, I think it would be really hard to remake a Marilyn Monroe movie. Or really hard to remake a Marx Brothers movie. Because it's not, those movies kind of be for those people.
That's what makes a film really great, or, you know, a classic, is the elements come together in such a way that it works in this particular time, which is why Bride of Re-Animator has a lot of similar elements to Re-Animator, but it is not strictly as good a film. It just happens to be that the combination of actors plus director plus writer plus time plus practical effects plus everything that had to happen to make 1985 Re-Animator happened in this way, and you can't replicate that. Yeah. You know, it's like a snowflake.
Yeah.
Hey, we used to play this game when we were kids, and we always said, if you could be any person in any movie, so your life is now that movie, and you were that role. So, like, one of my friends always wanted to be Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. And I always thought that was a good choice. I was like, oh, yeah, you can.
Because he wanted to fuck his mum.
So, so you can do anything that character... So basically that will be your world now.
Okay.
So you can play with their reality, but you will have the same problems they have. And we used to play this game, but instead of just asking you any random movie, I want to know about what Jeff movie would you want to be in.
Ooh.
And you have to be him.
I have to be him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, give me a sec. He dies in a lot of his films.
Yeah.
In the rules of this universe, I'm not me, I am them.
Yeah, so you're them.
Presumably, if I'm a terrible person in a film, I'm happy that I'm a terrible person because I am that person. I'm not like me inside of his body.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, the first one that comes to my mind is his character in the film Would You Rather. He plays a very rich man who collects a bunch of people to his home on the idea of playing a simple game that they would win money. And they play Would You Rather, and the game becomes increasingly dangerous and deadly. And he's, you know, very much a sadist. But in that film, he seems quite happy. He's very rich. He's very fancy. He feels that he is being quite generous.
And always having games night.
He's always having games night. Seems to like his horrible son. Quite well dressed. Seems happy with his life. Even though he is doing terrible things, he's happy in the movie. And if I wanted to be a good guy, I suppose I'd be his character in a little-known action film, Felony, where he is A, a good guy, and B, lives, which is rare.
Hey, in House on Haunted Hill, he sort of lives on.
In our hearts.
Although, you wouldn't be able to do this podcast if you were that character in that film.
You can't speak.
Because he wouldn't say anything,
Who would you be, Lucy?
In the Jeffrey Combs movie or in any movie?
Any movie.
But I know this is going to be super lame, but the first thing I thought of was Harry Potter.
Yeah?
You're right. That is super lame.
So you want to be Harry Potter or...
No, I don't want to be Harry Potter.
Yes, you do. That's why you draw that lightning bolt on your head all the time. And I have to keep rubbing it off. And I'm like...
Nah, I don't want to be him. But I'd want to be in that world. That a lot of people said I was very similar to that Luna character. Do you remember her?
I haven't seen any of the films. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not really into like that sort of stuff. So
Oh, I feel great.
no, a lot of other people have. It's fine. It's incredibly mainstream. I'm the weirdo for not having seen them. What about you, Rob?
I always liked From Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was so good. And even though it's kind of crazy to pick that one because it is a totally nuts world.
He has a rough time
to
in
live
that
in,
movie.
and it's really, really rough. I would totally pick that just because I love the color aesthetic of that movie.
Okay.
And so no matter how rough it is, I would just be...
As long as it looks pretty.
I'd be like, yeah.
Doesn't matter if I have a dog dick coming out of my head. It'd be an experience. All right, guys, anything you want to plug?
Have a Merry Christmas.
Stop plugging Christmas.
I reckon Christmas has enough advertising.
yeah.
You're just a big fan.
No, I got nothing to plug except my tour to the Haunted Hill. I'm going up there and I want to see what's haunted about this hill.